Preseason round 3. It's going to be pretty fun in this one. We've got, as you can see here, a bunch of our absolute stars, the absolute stars of our game here and available in this round 3. And there's still going to be a bunch of guys that we actually won't see at all in Turbo, DCE, which we'll see in this first team list. Before we get into that, guys, I haven't spoken in depth about the private group as much yet, but I want to show you what you guys actually get. And I just showed you a little bit of an introduction in yesterday's video on my analysis into the top 10. So you do get that big document, all the videos that are associated with that as well, guys. You do get big competitions with plenty of cash up for grabs as well. But all my, my personal strategies, the strategies that the top 10 use. I've got my trading checklist, my round 1 checklist, which is hectic as well. And then you've got all my gun rankings. So from 1 through to however many I did there. Getting updates on how my team is looking week to week as well. And during the season, guys, it's going to be massive as well. You get my rankings and my best trade-ins each week, which I'll talk, outwardly about all of the guys. And then you'll really get into the weeds about knowing exactly who I'm going for. You'll know my trades early, any final changes I make and all that good stuff as well is going to be very important. If you want to be in that, and there's over 200 guys now and they're all helping each other out, and there's plenty of great players as well. So jump in the description, check all the information out on that one, and we'll get back into the video. Thank you very much for considering. But round 3, wow, Seagulls. All right, let's get into it. With that one, I got up against the Panthers, and the Panthers, we get no information, sadly, on their front. So we move straight to the Eagles. It's probably going to be the least interesting team lists, well, these two especially, but I do have one guy that's standing out. Of course, it's Ruben Garrick, but there's one other guy that I find, two other guys actually I'll say in this team that are actually pretty interesting in Siwa Takiaho and Jazz Tavanga. So we actually do see Jazz come in and play 9 in this game this week. So was in the All-Stars last week and gets his opportunity in this one here. I believe he's in All-Stars. Anyway, they've decided to go with him at 9 and Simpkin at 14. And I looked at Jazz in the mid-value video, and he has plenty of value if he gets a decent minute roll. And this is actually one of those forward packs where you should see him in somewhat of a decent minute roll with his PPM being really, really strong. And it's very, very similar with Takiaho, but Jazz is about 5 years younger than Tak. So that's where he can be of interest. But we do know from looking at his stats that his PPM at 9 isn't that great. But the benefit and what we'd be looking for here is him to play a little bit of 9. And then Simpkin would come on, and then Jazz would go into the middle rotation. And when you look at that middle rotation, it's not super strong. They are missing Paseka with that AC joint injury, and he will come back in, but he'll come back in for Patolo. So Takiaho, you can't imagine he's the big minute forward in this pack. He could be a 40-minute forward, and that could serve as close to a bit of value. But they're both that sort of, he's a 400 and Jazz a 412, which is interesting. You got Nathan Brown who plays some decent minutes. Sipley will get, I think, that smaller minute crack off the bench. Cheekham will be their outside back and their edge cover, and should potentially come on for one of their edges. And we don't see Olaquatu in this match. We don't see Turbo. We don't see DCE. We don't see their big dogs. But does Burbo play 80 minutes? It's probably a no. So I think Cheekham comes on and spells one of those guys and is that backs cover. And then Simpkin will come on and play 9. And Jazz will move into the middle rotation. So with none of these guys at the moment, apart from Gerbo being the big minute guy, and then Olaquatu, their 9 isn't going to play 80. And then their middles, there's no one that's going to be a 55-minute plus guy. So that's potentially 40 to 45 minutes available for one of Takiaho or Jazz Tavanga. The question that we probably won't find out until round 1 is who's going to get it. I think one of them has enough value, and Jazz has the most likelihood, given he's 5 years younger and has a 0.92 ppm, that if he got 45 minutes, we've seen with him when he gets 44 minutes, sometimes he can go 50, these types of things. But if he gets 45 with a 0.9 ppm, he does have 10 points of value. So that's the interesting section in this Eagles side, and it would mean Simpkin is not a buy either, given he's going to be getting not 80 minutes to kick off the year. And we do see Chan Kum Tong in the 18 jersey, so it looks like he won't feature, and it'll be Jazz and Simpkin that'll be taking the 9 duties. Brendan Wakeham's down there in 22, along with Raymond Vega, Caleb Navale, and Aramshop, who all played on the weekend as well. Sykes, Atassi James, all these guys there. So expect a lot of these positions to be pretty similar, but Paseka will return, Olaquatu will return, Gerbo will, and then it'll be that one position. We still see no Tommy Talau, but I am excited to see Ruben Garrick in there as well, and no Luke Brooks either to kick off this preseason challenge. So that's our first one. Did I say Tommy Talau? Was he in there? No. What was I looking at? Tolatau. There you go. And Taniela. Move on to the Tigers and the Eels, guys. And guys, if you haven't subscribed or followed the podcast and the YouTube channel, please do that. You're all legends. I appreciate you watching. For the Tigers there, we do see on the actual NRL on your phone, Alex Seyfarth is the captain. How good's that? So, yeah, I've been on the Seyfarth train all preseason, and looks like this is somewhat how it's going to roll out. We just see Jack Bird actually not in the 13 role with Alex Twal there. This is probably the biggest contentious point of this team list. With Bird in that position, you do come into it feeling a little bit safer if he is the 13 role, in the 13 role and not the bench guy. The chat was that he was going to be the middle, in playing in the middle, and I still think that that's the case off the bench. The question's going to be, and what we want him to be fair, is that Dylan Walker 14 role off the bench for that sort of, 50, 45, 55 minutes, something like that. But obviously, if he's not starting, it's very difficult to get him more than 55 minutes, which, to be honest, it probably wasn't what I was expecting anyway. But if he does start, he has more opportunity to play bigger minutes. The other things to look at there is obviously he can be moved out to the centres and these types of things if injury does occur. So there's a few question marks, that's for sure. Do they move like a Fainu or a Seyfarth out to the edge if there's problems as well? There's definitely more questions than answers right now with Jack Bird. Let's just say that. Now let's watch the trial and then let's talk a little bit further on Bird. I don't think we can deduce any sort of clear tactical way of them going to go about it, apart from we're hoping that he gets the role of like a Dylan Walker, and then we can use him that way. But Twali's in 13 at the moment. We do see May and Pole in the starting spots, which was somewhat expected. Talon De Silva is the 9 right now. We still don't see Api Coruscant. We don't see Jerome Luai, which is a bit frustrating. We don't see Jareem Buller either. The other big thing in this is Stafford Toa. He's been named in the centres, but we do have Adam Dewey at 7 right now. Does he play centre? Probably. Is Dewey the 14, maybe, if they don't go that way, and they go him at 14 and Latu Fainu doesn't make the side? I'm not sure. We do have to watch. I think they're going to, without Luai there, they're probably just deciding to start Adam Dewey in that position. They're only naming 21 too, so they're starting there, and then they're likely to move Latu into the halves and then move Dewey out of that 7 spot. So that's probably the interesting thing with that. We'll have to see who comes off in the centres. Is it going to be Naden? Is it going to be Toa? Naden had a beautiful chase down block, but a chase down try saver the other day. It'll be great to see Dewey back in his 60-point scoring position there, and I'm keen to see Seyfarth and Talon De Silva out there again. Now for the Eels. On their front, we do see Iongi in that fullback slot again with Joash on the extended bench. It's good to see Penasini and Lomax both named. It'll be interesting to see which side they do end up if Penasini stays on Moses' side. So we'll find out that one, which will be cool. And Ronnie Volkman gets his spot at 7 again, with Brown and Moses not being there this week. Jake Tungo on the other wing as well, with Addo Carr on the extended. So that part's interesting. I think we might have pretty close to a lock on the edges, but it doesn't look like it's getting any easier having a new coach. Not Brad Arthur. We have Jason Riles. He's named Joey Lussick at 9. What an absolute piss take this is. Obviously, Hands got to play good minutes last week, so maybe this is just we don't need to play Hands again. He obviously isn't playing with his main halves as well in Moses and Brown, so maybe that's a little bit of a thing. It's like, well, you haven't got those guys anyway, so you got your minutes last week and we'll give Lussick the minutes. That could be the thing. It could also be the fact that they're not sure at the moment who's going to get that spot. But I do think he played enough minutes in that position for a smaller guy to not have to put him through that again in this week. But Katoga and Tuolangi, it looks like they're a high chance of getting this spot. And is it going to be scary bringing in, I think, Katoga? Yes. but he's super cheap. And Tuolangi is going to be scary at times, potentially. But if he looks like he'll land on that right-hand side with Moses, I think that's incredible real estate. They were kicking to him as well, not just him being a short ball option in the line next to Moses. I think it's a cracking spot. So those two guys, very, very interesting. And incredible to see Jermaine Hopgood available for this game as well. I'm super excited about that one and keen to see how he looks. And if he's moving well, I think he's a terrific option for round one. Now we've got Jack Williams earning his spot at the starting prop. And I think that he is going to get pretty good minutes. If you're looking at this pack straight up, they've got a couple of guys on the reserves, but really it's only Geimer and it's Bryce Cartwright. And obviously what I was saying about Bryce is the fact that he's missed out on this starting 17 completely, which is wild. And Madison looks like he'll keep that bench role. So what I was going to get at. Hopgood. Yeah, Hopgood's minutes. That's probably the big question. And Jack Williams. So in this pack, Hopgood's the man, obviously. But it looks like Jack Williams is then going to be the leader of this starting pack, which is absolutely wild and could get in closer to 50 minutes, which is what I was saying that you needed from him. 50 to 55 for him to be worthwhile. And they pushed him straight into the leadership group as well. So if that ends up being the role, I can't see him losing money. And there's definitely a chance that he does increase on that if they use him a fair bit as well. So I'm excited to watch him play and see if he's taken a bit of a leap, and with that leadership role, he's improved his play and his decision making and holding the ball over at the Eels. But in saying that, Hopgood's minutes have to be pretty solid, pretty high in this type of pack. When you doubt that Katoga could get the full 80, I think Tuolangi can, but Katoga not likely. When you've got Matt Dury on a bench, which could be the play, it could be Cartwright, could be Geimer. We don't know at this point, but obviously those couple of guys played last week. Luca Moretti will play through the middle, and then Madison will as well. So I think Hopgood's got a pretty good opportunity to play good minutes, and it's going to depend on if that 14 role is for a second hooker, whether it be Hands and Riley Smith, whether it be Hands and Lussick. If that's the play, I think there's good minutes to go around for this pack compared to some of the other packs you do see. And when we're looking at, we didn't mention it too much yet, sorry, was Royce Hunt coming off the bench. It's probably well expected, to be fair. I didn't expect him to be starting in this side, and I think that you're still going to get those types of that type of minutes, that 30 to 35 out of Royce, and we can decide come round one if that's the play that we want to get on, or something that could potentially have a little bit more upside. Even if you're comparing him to Katoga has more chance of more minutes, but is he going to get dropped? Whereas Hunt, he's going to be in that 17 and could just be a slower burn type of cash cow. That would be pretty interesting. Now let's go to Dragons and the Bunnies here. And on the Dragons, we see a very, very similar side. You got Matt Fainai on the wing there, Sione Finau as well. Finay? One or two. Finau. There's so many ways you can go about this lovely English language, can't we? But Flanagan and Ilias keep the same spot. Couchman in that starting prop role again. With Emre Gula, and a few people have asked, Emre Gula, do we pick him? Same situation as last week. They named a very important, very full strength side, and they're doing it the same this week with Couchman moving into that interchange bench. And we don't see Pacifica Tonga in that 17, which a few people are looking at, and Harm Sele, and also Tyrell Sloan. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. But guys like Couchman, can you expect big minutes in this pack? When we just looked at that last one, with the Eels, there's some minutes available. Junior Paulo, that's the one that hasn't been named, actually. Scratch that. We didn't think of his minutes, but he shouldn't be going absolutely all guns a-blazing with his minutes. And you'd imagine, I think Greg goes to the bench then. I think they start with Jack. So Paulo will be the leader of the pack. Jack Williams, I think, will be the second guy for minutes. So probably need an injury now that I'm thinking about it with Junior available for any of those middles to actually be really worth it. And Jermaine's the guy you want to go for in that one. Sorry, I missed that team. For the Dragons, very, very full strength side again. And it's so hard to fit minutes in amongst all of these forwards. So that's the big thinking tank that you need to work out with those types of teams. And do you want someone like that could easily just get 40, 45 minutes and not make any money? For the Bunnies, it's going to be super fun to see Latrell Mitchell out there in this one. see the role, because it's with Jaden Sullivan and Lewis Dodd. So Lewis will kick a little bit, but how much is Latrell going to kick? And if it's a tremendous amount, then he becomes so important, I think, in fantasy sides, and especially in Supercoach sides there. Isaiah Tass is on that wing, and that was expected, along with Ty Munro to start, with no AJ obviously, but Declan Casey and Jack Whiten are the current centres with no Campbell Graham at this stage. So it's just that Declan Casey one that I think will change in the first few weeks, but looks like even if Campbell Graham isn't there, we'll see Tass and Munro both on a wing, so it'll be great to see them and how they look again. Same with David Moale in that front row spot. He looked awesome last week. I can't imagine these two play big minutes because they did last week. We'll see how that one plays out. Tallis Duncan, right now with no Jai Arrow and no Aiken, is sitting on that, which will be the left edge most likely. With Keelan Kolomatangi, they're not naming him at 13. So that means he is very, very likely to start on that edge. And the question is going to be with Duncan, does he just end up back on the bench very, very quickly if we do see Arrow, or if we see the great Ewan Aiken as well. So one of those guys I think likely takes his spot, and we'll see Cam Murray, I think, in round one, with Hubner moving to a bench role or potentially out of the side. So that's that there. Fletcher Myers doesn't make the squad, and you got Bailey Biondioto in there on the reserves as well. But Jai Gray, good to see him somewhere in that side, and Jamie Humphries at 14 will take some minutes from Pete Mamazella. So it'll be interesting to see how many minutes a lot of these guys play in this fairly important trial for a few of the squads. So that's the Charity Shield there. It's a fairly high quality side for the Bunnies, without Cody Walker there obviously, and Murray and Aiken, all these guys, and Arrow that we thought weren't going to make it anyway due to injury. So that's our side. It'll be interesting, but it's more about we can't really work it out completely just because there's guys that aren't available through injury. Broncos. All right. Walshy, Cobbo, Staggs, Shibasaki and Arthurs. So Dean Mariner not there. He's on the emergencies after scoring a double last week. I'm not sure if that position completely locked in. It probably should be, but it might not be. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that one. And a lot of these teams, they do make changes through the week anyway, or like they do in normal weeks or on game day. So keep an eye on how these teams actually line up in the games as well, and we'll try to be able to help you with that. But it's officially happened. Kobe Hetherington is the 13. Corey Pakes is the 9. Exactly what Pat Carrigan said. I don't think it changes Pat's output too much. They do have Reynolds and Hunt there as well, which would be great to see. But for Pat, he's not really relevant while Payne Haas is there, and it's good to see him named for a trial. That's great. I mean, we know he's a pretty good healer, that's for sure, as they say. Fast healer. He's a beast, absolute beast. So it'd be great to see him, and if he looks free and ready to go, he's an awesome pick, as always. This one's crazy, man. It's actually true. A lot of this stuff you do here, it does turn out to be true, but a lot of us can't believe it. But Piakura is in the reserves. Good. He's missed too many tackles. Jack Goz. Can't believe Jack Goz might be a 250k saviour with Katoga. That is wild times. And sounds like a lot of traps as well. But a 250k compared to if they're 320 or 350, they have to score so much less for it to be a really solid option in your side. That's the big thing with it. Like, they only have to go okay for five weeks. Or if they get a 40 or 50 in there, they're off to the races with their gains. So that's the thing. If he's named there round one, it is hard to jump off. And, they're going to have a backup edge on the interchange. Like, we don't know at this point. You've got Karapani, Hoda as outside backs on their interchange, but we just don't know how it's going to line up. You've obviously got Takura, Xavier Wilson on the reserves as well. So they're missing some middles, Jensen, and then, Dean Mariner's on that reserve bench. Billy Walters, who played last week, they don't need to play big minutes, but so did Piakura, but so did Goz, So that part's interesting for sure. Making sure they get him out there, and I'll take this one with a grain of salt that he's definitely ahead of Piakura, but he did play on the left last week, and things are adding up, that's for sure. But Kobe Hetherington, I just don't think it's a great fantasy option. Don't know where the minutes come from unless Haas or Carrigan are injured. But on to the doggies. All right, the Dogmans. So 1935, 90 years in business. Good on them. All right, Connor Tracy, I really think he takes the leap this year, but Kiraz is out, unfortunately. So we do see Wilson and Montoya. There was the talk of which one are they going to pick. It's forced their hand already. And if they do lose one more, I think we'll get someone of interest. But if it's only, just the one person out in the back line, then we don't get that interest so far. And how good is Blake Taft's hair at the moment, by the way? Where is Blake Taft? Is he on the bench? Yeah, he is. Reserves. On the reserves, but I can't wait to see Burton. I think he's going to take a step up this year. Maxi King with Hughes. So we don't see Satili Tupanua in this one. It's a very similar team to last year, to be fair. You've got King with Hughes, and then you've got Kurtman at 13, Hayward at 14, Curran, Moran, and Salmon, which is a lot of what we've seen before. So that's probably expected come round one, apart from if Satili were to make the side. And still the big question is going to be, for me, does Jacob Preston play over 70 minutes? Does he get 80 on a regular basis? Because if he does, he's an absolute jet. If he doesn't make any money, which is still going to be solid at a 50 or 52, but you want him in 55 plus with 80 minutes. And we're just not sure. With that type of bench, you probably lose some minutes from one of the edges. And last year, it wasn't kick out. That's for sure. So yeah, keen to watch Stephen Crichton as well, like how involved he gets. But I don't think we're going to see anything of real note from someone like him in a trial game. Like, he's going to have his moments, but yeah, there's not too much else you can kind of do for him in a trial who's won so many comps. Not last year though. Moving on to Dolphins and Titans, and this Dolphin side is pretty wild. Unfortunately, I don't get to see Oren Keeley, so that was sad for me. But what we do see in that back row spot is Max Blath, which we didn't expect it, and we actually know he plays better in the 13 role, so not super excited if he does get that edge, because I do think it's unlikely he plays the 80, and I feel like he should be more of an edge. But yeah, it's interesting. There's still a few guys out from this side. They do have Saifidi and Felice Kafusi in the starting prop role, which I think will be fun. Kenny Bromwich, Nichols, Stone all on the bench with Junior Tupou. So that was interesting, with things not being moved around in the back line as well, with Bostock still on the wing. They were sticking around with Averillo and Farnworth. So obviously things with Junior aren't working as perfectly as they might have hoped at this stage. And it very clearly looks like Kurt Donahue is going to be the 14 this year. So keep that in your thoughts as well. And that does help someone like Plath. It does help someone like Tom Gilbert. But we also don't see Connolly Lemuelu in the starting 17 either. So he's in number 20 with Max Fainai, Josh Kerr, and a couple of guys that played last week, and Graham, and also O'Sullivan. So there's some big question marks there. Is with Kurt at likely to be 14. There are some minutes available for middles, but there's minutes available for edges as well. And we do have Finafuriaki in the 11 jersey. So does that mean he's bypassed Connolly? I'm not sure. It's a pretty interesting little thought there. And the big one out of this, to be honest, like Saifidi, I think probably plays some solid minutes and makes a bit of cash. But Tom Gilbert at 13 is where he was, obviously before injury. He's a big watch this week. So get your eyes fixed on him and watching him throughout this game. At 13, we know he is a little bit underpriced, but the question is going to be how underpriced and how many minutes is he going to get in the early going. So keep an eye on that interchange bench, but that 14 role will be very, very important to see what you're going to get out of Tom Gilbert in round one. For the Titans, interesting one here is that we don't see Keeney is actually going to be playing off the bench, but a few of these guys, Brian Kelly, Campbell, Cam Pereira, they all were in the All-Stars. So can you judge them too much for not naming them in that one? And I do think that the guys that played last week need another hit out, and they need to perform a lot better. So it's actually coming, they got smacked by 50, and they're coming up against a team that won by 50. So this is going to be a big test for them. A little bit closer to a full strength side as well for the Finns. So this will be a great contest, and I'm keen to watch this one for sure, with a few guys of interest in a lot of our sides, with Keeney obviously there. We don't get to see Campbell, and if he's going to actually be at 7, so that we won't know until round 2. So this whole team is going to be wild on that front. We see Teen off the bench, which is going to be fun. Obviously hasn't played in a long time, since round 7 or 8, or whatever it was last year. We do see Tony Francis still on the wing, along with Alan Fitzgibbon. So when Cam Pereira comes back, do we see Tony Francis end up keeping that spot? That's probably a question as well. I think we'll leave it there in that one. All right, Roosters and Knights, I should say. There you go. For the Roosters there, we do see Nawangani Tuaze and Rob Toya in the centres. I think that's great that we get to watch Mark again after a pretty poor showing. Tedesco's going to be at the back, and it'll be interesting to see which side he goes more to. Sandon Smith, Townsend again, but we do see Nafahu White move back to the bench from the starting side with Spencer keeping that 10 jersey. And I think this is going to be an interesting one to see if they actually switch on game day or not. If they don't, it is a little bit of a worry for Nafahu White at that price point. Again, you want some type of guarantee that there's going to be games where they do hit 50 minutes. And it's just harder to do off the bench for a normal prop forward. They always usually get taken off in that middle stint. How often did we see Terrell May being a guy that could lock in for the whole game? How often did he come off? And with a lot of minutes to go, 20, 30 minutes, and only play 30, 40. So that's the worry with these types of guys, and they still have a lot of forwards. They've lost a bunch, but they still have plenty, and they're looking to experiment with Siwa Wong at 13, who actually played a decent amount of right edge there. So this is going to be interesting to see how that one lines up. Does Radley actually line up on the edge or on the right edge, or does he line up at 13? Keep an eye on that one, but Wong's needs to be in our thoughts. Surprisingly, we haven't had to think about him too much. I didn't think he'd be getting anywhere near the starting jersey. Thought it might be likely bench forward because you have lost a few. Blake Steep isn't there at this point. Celeste Fiketti is in there as well, along with Iolu, who I haven't seen much of, but we'll have to learn a bit more, especially if they make that round one team list, that's for sure. So yeah, keep an eye on Wong, keep an eye out on White. Crichton's back, keep an eye on Watson and how that one's going to play out. Does he actually play big minutes in this one? I doubt it, to be honest with you. And we don't see Moriarty anywhere either. So yeah, people were thinking that he might get the 14, but that's not the case at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see who ends up in this spot. And I actually don't know anything about Benaya. So I'll have to go check that out and see what position he plays. And if you want to just let me know in the comments straight away, that would be appreciated as well. But yeah, keen to see Watson in this team and how that goes and continue to see Rob Toya. He looked like a jet. For the Knights, they've changed things up again. Fletcher Sharp has stayed at 6 at least, but Tyson Gamble's into the 7. And that's pretty wild. But he's a bit of an awkward price, isn't he? And the way they change their halves I do my undies, right, every week. So Kalen Ponga at 1. Can't wait to watch him in this one and see which side he goes to. It's James Schiller on the right wing, so it's less exciting than what Sharp is, which I think makes me think that they'll go left a bit more. And he gets to have Bradman Best next to him, which is great fun. Back row, Lucas is there, but Jaden Bradley back to 14. So exactly how it was last year. Phoenix Crossland in at 9. Still an important factor of this side. And I do think that majority of this team is pretty well how they're going to name their 17 in round 1. So it's just keep an eye on that. I think the backs is where it's at. The 6 and 7 position is too scary to touch. And then if you want Lucas, then jump on. All right, Storm and Cowboys. Is this our last one? Yes, it is. All right, Storm and Cowboys. Big thank you to everyone for watching so far. It's been good fun as always. But Storm, they have named a full-strength side pretty close to, in my opinion. Apart from Pap, he's in the reserves. So Farlongo likely to start, but really weird that hasn't happened. It hasn't worked out that way. But Xavier Coates isn't there either. So they're the couple, along with Jerome Hughes. Sorry, there's a few, but there's a lot more of their full-strength side outside of those 3, if I'm correct. Yeah, basically. So Pap should play as well, which will be fun. So we go to see those guys. Keen to see Jack Howarth and see if he's improved out there and if he can get some good attacking stats. Harry Grant at 9, going to be good fun this year again. Stefano, it'll be cool to see him with Harry Grant. It'll be cool to see Blore and how he's improved, along with Eli Katoa and Trent Liero as well. So that's more what we're looking at here, is just how they all mesh together and if any of those guys that I mentioned have improved. For the Cowboys, we do not see Zach Labutz to kick things off, and he's not in the reserves either. But there was obviously talk about him, not being fit for round 1. He could be close. Jackson Purdue, he does have the spot now, but is he going to keep that spot longer term? Scott Drinkwater is in there at 1, which is good fun. We do see Braden Birds on the right wing, and that was expected, especially after Rob Derby with a struggler of a game last week. McIntyre on the starting side, I absolutely love that as a Cows fan. Bateman on the right edge, it looks like. Jeremiah Nanai is going to be on the left from all talks. Edwards, Lawton, Neem, and they have it named as 17th. Looks like Cardinals in 19, so we'll see how that one plays out. But all those guys did play last week, and all of the other players, apart from Lawton, didn't. And it's just going to be fun to see Bateman. The talk that was coming out was that he's going to miss out on some trainings and different things, and then he'll just play big minutes on game day. So it's a little bit worrying for sure, but that's what age does to you. And to be honest, if he's good to go on game day and plays big minutes, then that's good enough for me. Am I going to pick him? I'm not sure, but it's good, at least good enough for my cows. And Tom Duffy gets his opportunity, so I'm keen to watch him in this one. There's so many guys I'm excited to look at across these team list, guys. It's going to be so much fun. We're getting closer and closer to our round one sides. You can muck around with your positional stuff, which will be really, really cool. We don't get to see a Blaze Talangi, a Jack Cole, with Cleary, these types of guys, which is frustrating, but they're off to Vegas in a couple of days, and that's why you don't see a Raiders team list in this one. And Sharkies and the like. So all those guys are done. They played 2 already, and these guys will get their second one in now. And there's plenty to look out for fantasy and Supercoach circles. And I hope you guys enjoy these weeks. And if you don't, and if you don't get to watch them, come back to my analysis following those games, and I'll be able to help you out and help you create a really good fantasy team. See you guys.